The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
So first question, what's your opinion on self-disclosure in a work environment?
That's a real loaded question. I just talked to a guy who had a very successful job. I think I'll leave out what the job is. Very successful, somewhat technical job. Had been with him for 5 years, very successfully, disclosed, got ostracized, and ended up leaving. And this just happened.
Wow.
This is now.
That's disheartening.
And I recommended this guy because that did not disclose. Actually, in my own career, I never disclosed. I would tell them, no, never did. If they know about the movie, fine. If they don't, and no, I never disclosed. And when I started out in the early 70s, being a woman was a much bigger barrier than autism ever was in the cattle industry in the 70s. And I would just say things like, I'm terrible at multitasking. Okay, that's disclosing something. That's something very specific. Or I need a pilot's checklist to know how to operate this machine. That kind of stuff I would disclose. And I said, I've got to make myself a pilot's checklist of the steps because I've got rotten working memory. That kind of stuff I'll disclose. Very sad case, very competent guy, really mild end of the autism spectrum. And he lost his job. And this was right now.
Wow.
Within the last month, I talked.
That is so disappointing. But
it's
so
very,
basically
very disappointing. So what can I say to this guy?
Yeah.
And he's one where he doesn't need to disclose.
Right.
You see, now you got more, ones that you have to, but even in my own stuff, I mean, I'm sitting on an airplane with somebody I don't disclose.
Yeah.
If they know about the movie, fine, I talk about it.
Right. But so before the movie, so when you went to work at your college, you didn't disclose to them, you didn't tell them?
Well, the college knew.
Okay.
But they knew. But you take my regular clients, I mean, the way I did an interview is I just sold the work. There's that scene in the movie with the drawings on the desk. An interview for me, in the first minute, I had the drawings out. Laying on the desk, pictures of jobs, my brochure, and I've got some of my drawings right here. What I learned to do is to just sell the work. There's some of my drawings. And I would just put those on the desk. And I had some trade magazine articles, things like that. Just lay the work out.
Yeah.
That's
well, you've always been a big fan of having a portfolio and now having a virtual.
In other words, you sell your work. But unfortunately, there's been some really bad cases of discrimination. Military don't disclose.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people in the military that I know are on the spectrum. I have talked to them. They've come to autism conferences.
Well, then let me ask you this, because my son is getting ready. He's doing his college applications starting right now. Do you recommend that students disclose as they're applying to higher education?
Kind of depends upon what kind of accommodations they need. But 5 years ago, we had another case where a guy was going to get his pilot's license and he made the mistake of disclosing to the FFA physician for his physical, and he did not get a pilot's license.
Yeah.
And I don't, that's wrong, but I'm just telling you stuff that's happened where people have reported right to me. That was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And if you're on the mile, for me, I learned what kind of things I need to do my job successfully. Like when I'm doing a team writing, we're doing some animal welfare guidelines. I just say to them, I like homework. I'll do this part of the document, this format, get it done on this date. In other words, well define what my bit is, and then do my bit, and don't criticize the others. Though I have been known to correct technical errors and not use any word changes, things. And there were technical errors. There's some things, animal welfare guidelines, where it's a matter of opinion, but these were just technical errors. It was just wrong. So I just corrected.
I'll bet
And it
you're
went
a
through.
dream to work with.
That's what
I'll
I
bet
say. But it's, this was really disheartening, this guy that I just talked to. Technical type of job he had, very good, 5 years he'd been there.
Wow.
And the boss just told the other guys to shun him.
Wow.
And this just happened. And
Get him a lawyer? That sounds like
I told him to walk away. This
Yeah.
guy doesn't need to disclose.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can disclose some particular thing you need, like I'm terrible at multitasking. I
Right.
need a pilot's checklist. I like well-defined what my job role is.
Great.
See, that stuff,
Right.
that's disclosing some specific need you need.
But not a diagnosis. Well, it's
No, it's just
disheartening.
terrible, but that just happened.
But
And
it is terrible. And I think everybody appreciates your candor and your
I'm just
honesty.
telling you, they come to me.
Yeah.
They come to me. I don't go hunting for these things. They come up to me.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to move on to this other question because I'm interested to hear what your answer is. What is your greatest advice to help grandparents who are overly critical and hard to believe what parents tell them? I'm a consultant, and this is one of my first questions. And what do you recommend to them? We have a lot of grandparents.
Well, I got to find out what the grandparents critical of. See, one of the things on a lot of things, I don't get enough detail. Teachers will say, well, how do I work with autistic kids in the classroom? I don't even know what the age is. What is the problem? Okay, some of the common problems, sensory issues, multitasking. One of the things that the problem with a lot of learning differences is you got a small processor. So
I can tell
memory's
you.
messed up and
Go ahead. But I can tell you, Dr. Grannon, that for a lot of because I get a lot of these comments from parents, that the grandparents doubt the diagnosis and they say that child doesn't have autism. You just need to parent them better. They need to have their butt paddled when they do something wrong. And they feel like there aren't enough consequences that are negative for the kids.
The thing is,
they don't like ABA.
For me, there were very clear rules. Tantrums at school were no TV for one night. That was very clear. Then another one that I talked to was a guy, computer programmer, making a ton of money, doing a little bit of fraud stuff with money. And is autism an excuse for that? No, it's not. I was brought up with very strict, like you don't cheat at games. That was taught to me at a very young age. I didn't see grown-ups behaving bad on TV. I didn't see grown-ups sitting around the tax forms laughing about cheating and stuff. I was never, ever exposed to that. But since it's rule-based, you get someone he was going to play the autism card that he could get out of some serious financial fraud he'd done because he's autistic. No.
So for parents, for grandparents who, let's say that the child is diagnosed and the grandparent says, I just don't think they have autism.
All right, first of all, I want to find out, I want to be more specific. What behavior do the grandparents object to? Let's get more specific. What is the behavior? And then how can we deal with the behavior?
Well, I can think of one instance recently where
Okay.
I consulted with a family, and the little boy who was like 6 or 7 years old, he just wasn't very compliant. So so for instance, grandma would say to him, he would say to grandma, I'm going to have a snack right now. And grandma would say, no, it's not time for a snack. And the child would say, I'm going to go make the snack. And he would start to go make
what the grandmother needs to say, first of all, I want to get rid of saying no. What you want to say, instead of saying no, we have our snacks at 3 o'clock. Give the instruction instead of saying no.
There you go. So that's
the old fashioned 50s parenting. That's what I had.
So don't even get into the conversation about autism, and trying to prove
Let's just deal with the behavior. And you're going to just say, our family has our snacks at 3 o'clock. Give the instruction. That's what we do in our family. We'll have a snack in the mid-afternoon or a snack in the mid-morning, whatever it is, but get it on a schedule and you just give the instruction. So let's just look at the behavior they're dealing with. Now, you sometimes will have kids where they'll have a meltdown due to sensory sensitivity. And then one of the ways to handle that is the noisy thing the kid hates. It could be I saw a kid just the other day, a little electric battery operated leaf blower. That'd be something a lot of kids with autism would hate. There's a little battery operated one, so it would have been safe for them to use. And you let them turn it on and off, or the vacuum cleaner or the hair dryer, whatever the noisy thing is, let the kid control it.
I like that.
And I looked at this little leaf blower and I'm going, oh, we're going to let it, it was battery operated, so it was safe.
Yeah.
And the kid can turn it on and off and control it.
So they can take as much as they want to take. And
Well,
then
that's
turn it
right.
on.
That's really important. And that can sometimes help with, specific noisy things. There was one boy that was terrified of the scoreboard buzzer in the gym. And they took him down to the gym and they let him press the button and he started making tunes on it.
Oh,
Now that's
lovely.
something you see, but the thing is, I want to find out what behavior Granny doesn't like and then try to
Yeah.
deal with it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to move on to this next question, autism and ADHD. I find it incredibly difficult to address the autism in a child when the ADHD makes focusing so very difficult for them to respond to behavior therapies. Any suggestions?
All right. Well, first of all, ADHD and autism on the social front overlap 30%, both in genetics and in brain scans, especially one on social stuff. Okay, so let's just look at the task. You see, I have to get very specific so I can visualize. All right, what is it? What are they trying to teach you? What are they trying to teach you? How old is the kid?
And I don't know for this
See, I
particular
got to have
kid,
more
but let's-
information.
Yeah,
So
but
then
let's
I
take,
can visualize
Yeah.
something we could do.
so let's say that it's a 7-year-old, because a lot of parents are having a problem right now with the distance learning because of the ADHD sort of behaviors where
Some of
It's
these
like-
kids are going to have some breaks.
Yeah.
They're just going to. And maybe if the class is synchronous, maybe you're going to have to record it yourself. They're going to have some breaks. The other thing is a lot of these kids aren't getting enough exercise. Mother used to say, go outside and run the energy out of you. And they've got to get more exercise, and some of them are going to need breaks. That's what
And-
you got to do.
And I love that, we've been talking a lot about, you've said before that you need a burst of activity and that helps you to regulate yourselves. And I've been saying that over and over and over again, because I've noticed that with all of us with COVID, we had to buy a treadmill in our house. We bought a treadmill and we stuck it in the middle of the living room because I think we were all having a hard time. We just weren't, I'm not a big exercise person, but during
You've
a
got
normal
to
day,
do it. And I think
Yeah.
you're better off to set the treadmill kind of steep and kind of hard and do a burst of exercise, but you've got to work up to this. I don't want anybody having a heart
Yes.
attack here.
oh, no.
I worked,
No.
it took me 6 months to get up to 100 sit-ups.
100 sit-ups. All right, I'm going to work on that.
And and if you set the machine stiff, so it's hard to do it, and maybe on
Yeah.
quite a bit of a slant, you're going to work up to doing 10 minutes of hard exercise. But I do a very little hard burst, which really makes you sweat, makes you strain, but you have to work up to it. I don't want somebody keeling over doing this.
Yeah, no. But I think what I noticed for all three of us in our household is that once we started doing the treadmill, everything else became a little bit easier.
That's
And
right.
because you could regulate a little bit easier.
And you put the treadmill in the middle of the living room, so you're going to everybody has to use
Exactly.
it.
And we watch, sometimes TV is on while we're doing
That's
it.
fine.
So that, but yes, that's what we have done. And I know other families that have said, okay, we're not having a lawn, we're putting a trampoline in, but everybody has to find something that they can do physical. And I think it's just so important, as you said, for our kiddos that are spending so much time, screen time now.
Well, they've got to get exercise, and the treadmill is a machine that everybody can use.
Mhm.
And you put in the middle of the living room, and then you know whether everybody has used it enough.
That's right. We're keeping there. And I am very, very proud to say I think we started at 5 minutes, Temple, and we're up to 17 minutes now.
Yeah.
A
And that-
day. We're doing so.
And
We're
that's
getting-
probably, that probably is enough. I mean, there's a point where you don't have to overdo it, but if you did that hard every day,
Yeah.
and because then because I find that the burst of exercise worked better than the airport walking that I did,
Yeah.
because that didn't make airport walking I used to do. I haven't been in an airport since March 12th.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
But the airport walking didn't make me sweat and huff and puff and sweat. And I actually added up how far I walked in the Denver airport, and it was a long ways, but that just didn't do it. I do walking now for back pain,
Oh, there you go.
but I need that burst of hard exercise for the other things. And you got to get the kids doing this. I think
Yeah.
putting a treadmill in the middle of the living room is a real good idea.
There you go. I'm
Then
glad
you
you
know
observed.
everybody using it.
We didn't, we were going to take it upstairs, but it came and it was too heavy. We couldn't carry it upstairs, Temple. So it's sitting in the living room, but it's not gathering dust, let me tell you.
Well, good. It's not used as a clothes rack.
No clothes on that.
Oh,
It's
that's
used
good.
every single day. Okay, new question. Temple, how do we know what kind of thinkers our kids are? I have 3 children, all on the spectrum. My oldest is 10. He does not like drawing or writing, loves video games, doesn't like math or reading, loves science projects. My middle son is almost 5 and he loves both puzzles and building things and working on things, even video games. Also likes to color, to draw. Then my daughter, who is almost 4, she loves to color and write and loves sensory play such as Play-Doh and several types of slime.
All right. First of all, in the real little kids, it's going to be difficult to tell. It didn't
Okay.
show up with me until I was like 2nd, 3rd grade, 7 or 8 years old. And that's when my ability in art showed up. Or you'll get a kid that's ability in math will show up. And then you need to give them harder math. If you think you got a math kid, introduce computer programming. And then show them really cool stuff, like the touch screens on the Dragon spacecraft that just went up to the space station, SpaceX. Those run on JavaScript, the same program that's for Minecraft. Writing kids often love facts, like history and facts. And these things, if kids get exposed to enough stuff, then you'll see it. I'm seeing kids that are really good with Legos and nobody thought to introduce tools. And if they're good at Legos, you need to introduce tools by 2nd and 3rd grade and learn how to use it. Screwdriver and hammer, pliers. These are things I was using as a really young child. Then maybe a little later, a small electric cordless battery operated drill. And handsaw, all hand tools, of course. And except maybe the electric drill. And
one of the most favorite things I ever got.
And you teach them how to use them safely. And because there's a lot of visual thinkers like me where skilled trade's a perfect place for us to go. I guarantee you, it's essential work. We'll have jobs forever. We will have jobs forever. And the math kids, some of the way they're teaching math now is really weird. You want to find out you have a math kid, get some old fashioned algebra books and geometry books and let the kid have them and see what he does with them. You see, they can't show the skill if they're not exposed.
Very good.
That's the thing.
Somebody gave me a million years ago, they gave me a lady toolkit, and in it was a crank drill.
Oh, yes.
And to this day, I use that thing. I have a cordless drill that's, a bad, but then I got to charge it, and I can never find.
Well, a crank drill was like an egg beater drill.
Yeah. And I use it still all the time because if I just need to drill a little hole, and I always think about what a great thing for a mechanical kid before the cordless.
But those
drill.
are the kind of things that when I was fairly little kid, I was like 4th grade, I was using one of those cranker, egg beater drill.
Yeah, I love it.
These are things that but if kids aren't exposed to tools, how are they going to find out whether they love them or hate them?
Yeah.
And if you don't expose a kid to art stuff, and then you've got, or math kids, usually they just take right off of the math. But some of this math, the way they're teaching it, I looked it up online. I looked up 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade Common Core math. I'm going, you got to be joking. Let's just get some old fashioned math. Then go up in the attic and find the old geometry books and the old algebra books. And if you've got a math kid, they'll take off. You'll either be an algebra kid or a geometry kid. And I am definitely was not the math kid. Algebra, I never passed an algebra class. I managed to get out of it. But what you need for a skilled trade is the old fashioned, I'm going to say old fashioned up through 6th grade math is what you need for a skilled trade. You don't need any more than that. Things like find the volume of a cylinder, area of a circle, measure a room, some angles for roofs.
Yeah, that sounds like the 7th ring of hell to me because I'm definitely not a math kid. But you've always been a big fan of, because you turned me on to it, Khan Academy.
Khan Academy is all kinds of great stuff. Khan Academy, then for programming, code.org. And then if you want to turn on the kids that love patterns, You can look up fractals online, and you go on to Google Images and look up protein symmetry. Protein symmetry. You will find patterns that are inside your body that look like cathedral windows.
I think that one of the most amazing things was when my son learned how to, as he calls, search it up. We'll be talking about something and he'll go, well, let me search it up. And when he learned how to Google things for himself, I couldn't believe the things that he would Google and that he would discover and that he would learn about. It was fascinating. And it occurred to me that I don't know that all kids know how to do that.
Well, I'm finding I have a called my internet project in my class, and they've got to pick out a question in animal behavior that interests them.
Mhm.
And then they have to look up 8 scientific journal articles on 4 different databases. And what I'm finding in that is, for some students, it's a really easy assignment. About a third of the students don't even know how to do it. And the other thing they don't know how to do is how do you summarize. So I've got 8 articles about some question, how do bees navigate? Let's say that was the thing you look up. Well, tell me in a half page of single space type, how do bees navigate? After you've read these papers, you ought to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you summarize? Because we got a lot of kids getting through into college now. They've never done a book report.
Yeah.
So they've never learned how do you summarize something.
It's true. It's absolutely true. Something to think about. Okay, Dr. Temple. My son is 6 years old and on the spectrum. He is good at many things like music. He plays any instrument, any song once he sees it to play it, and reads so well and paints so good with tiny details, and loves to play by himself for hours on the iPad. All the time, new stuff while playing. He never responds unless we shout out loud. We got his ears tested, all good. How can I make him listen and respond? I appreciate your help.
Well, how much time is he spending on the iPad kind of zoning out? I might want to cut that down. The other thing he needs to learn is to play music that other people want sometimes. Like when I was about his age, I would draw the same horse head over and over again. And mother said, well, let's draw the entire horse. Draw it stable. In other words, take that thing and broaden it, and then get him to play different kinds of music. And then now, of course, churches are shut down with COVID, because that's a perfect place to do volunteer jobs or do little music gigs at parties, which is something we can't do now. Because you also want to start teaching work skills, and he needs to learn how to, well, sometimes you do music for yourself, but you sometimes also do music for other people. So you got to learn to play more different stuff. And some kids are very musical. Now, this brings up another thing. How do you find out if the kid has music talent? Well, if you don't expose them to instruments, how are you going to find out?
Yeah. We loved, before COVID, many years ago, here locally in Pasadena, there was an organization that would have a musical petting zoo. And what that was, each member of their orchestra would come and bring an array of instruments, and they had all these cleaning things that were there. And a child could go through and say, I want to try the tuba. And they could play the tuba, and then they would clean it all down, and the next child could play the tuba. But then you could walk over and play the violin. But that's the kind of
stuff that we got to get, kids have got to get exposed to find out if tuba's cool. You're not exposed to it. Yeah, you see that a lot of these things, how do you get kids interested in stuff? If they don't get exposed, the thing I have in some of my slides, I said, well, what happened to Michelangelo the other day? 6th grade dropout.
Yeah.
And, but he was exposed to art because all the churches were commissioning all this art. And then he was raised by stonecutters. So he was exposed to the tools, at least some of the tools he would have used. And if he hadn't had that exposure, he wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exposure. So
you have to expose, and his father wanted him to do legal documents in Latin. He's going, ugh, I don't want to do that. But there was a time where every church had these big art projects going on. So little Mikey'd go over there and look at the art projects. And if they hadn't been doing those art projects, he wouldn't have been exposed.
No. Okay, somebody wants to know what evaluation tools are best for determining if girls are on the autism spectrum. This is a big controversy right now. The people are saying that the criteria for diagnosing often will leave girls out of getting a
Well,
diagnosis.
girls are kind of, one thing is girls' brains aren't as lateralized as males. In other words, the corpus callosum is bigger. And one thing is known in stroke research that they can recover from strokes more easily because the two halves of the brain have got a bigger communication. But where girls really get in trouble is abusive relationships. They so much want to, be social. They get in a lot of problems with that. Now, when I was a little kid, I was nonverbal, so that's obvious. Okay, because I was nonverbal to age 4. I had obvious autistic symptoms, but you've got other girls where there'd be the type that has no speech delay, socially awkward. And the other thing that's concerning me now is I think we're getting too much medical model. How do we help someone be successful? Because I got all these grandparents that come up to me who find out they have autism when the kids get diagnosed. I'm seeing this happen all the time. And granddaddy's got a good job. Part of it is, I think, social rules are taught much more structured in my generation. Also, work skills. That grandparent had a job at age 11, delivering papers, or, we need to be teaching the work skills. And one of the great things was like church volunteer jobs. You got to learn how to do a task outside the family on a schedule. That's something you've got to learn how to do. And the kids is good with the music. He needs to learn how to do requests. You see, that's learning a work skill.
Yeah, wonderful. I have a 21-year-old son diagnosed moderate to severe when he was 2.5 years old. All the perseverative behaviors, circles, talking to himself. We did detox, chelation, play therapy, ABA. He mainstreamed fully in 6th grade, graduated high school with a 3.9, including honors classes, now a junior in college, enjoying getting to be totally online this semester because he really wants friends, that social connection. But even with getting into the top jazz choir, because he has perfect pitch, rushing and being offered 3 fraternities, choose one, and even accepted into a music fraternity, still couldn't make any connections. He is totally enjoying his junior year remotely living at home. His autism services director said that this is difficult because most kids on the spectrum are happy alone.
Well, it sounds like he's doing pretty good. So what's his problem?
The problem is that he wants to connect, that he's having troubles connecting, and they want to know if you have any thoughts. And what
do you mean by connecting?
He wants friends. He wants to be
able to. He's not getting any friends, because usually when you're in this many different things with shared interests, you get some friends who shared interests.
But he's not. And she's saying he's in this, he's in the choir, he's in the fraternity.
Well, but oftentimes you get friends through those shared interests. Now sometimes one thing I had to learn is I couldn't go on and on and on talking about the same carnival ride over and over again. People get sick of that. So you have to make some rules. Okay, why has he not got friends? I have a few more questions I got to ask, because when I was his age, I did have friends who shared interests. And a couple of the people I was friends with were probably on the spectrum, but it was through shared interest. And he's doing shared interest things. They invited him into a music fraternity. And he might be kind of just going on and on and on, talking about his favorite thing to where other people get bored. And someone needs to just coach him that, okay, you talked about the bassoon like for 2 hours now. I'm just making something up. And with an instrument, and people are getting bored with it. You see, I need more information to find out. He's probably doing something like that just totally turns off the other people.
And I wonder if mom can be a little bit of a sleuth while he's home doing stuff online to see, because even in the Zoom, you can begin to see it's a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah. And then is he just yakking on and on and on? Now, one of the problems I have, and I still have it, is interrupting, because I can't get the timing. There's a lot of problems I have to do with slow processor speed, monotasking, timing, see what he's doing wrong. You see, this is where I might just need some social coaching. Okay, you've talked too long about this musical instrument. Let's get somebody else talking. What is he doing online? I'd watch him. Because usually somebody that's doing that many things like that does get some friends.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up the interrupting thing, because a couple of people have written in and said that I've interrupted you several times, and I apologize. It is very hard to time in Zoom, so interrupting is also my problem, and they're mad at me that I've interrupted you too many
Well, and
times.
I've interrupted people just live because I can't get the timing. This is where the processor speed of my brain. If I was a computer, I'd be an Intel 286. You can look that up and see what that is. But I've got the
Right.
cloud for memory. But a lot of the problems of things like interrupting, that's processor speed. And I still have a problem with that.
So, but you said you have the cloud for memory. So does that
Well,
mean
the
you have a
cloud
great,
would be tons of memory. Computer
So
cloud,
you-
know,
so you have a lot of memory?
I have a lot of memory, but I've got no working memory. Like if I had any task that involves more than 3 steps, I have to write them down. I have to make a
Interesting.
checklist or I can't remember them. I cannot remember long strings of verbal steps.
So what are the things that you have that you just remember everything from your childhood? What you
Oh,
say you
not
have a lot.
everything. I mean, it's like I don't remember every hotel I've been in. I only remember really weird, really terrible. And I remember generic Hilton Garden Inn, sort of what they look like, because they're all the same. Generic Fairfield Inn. I know my
I love
hotel
that.
brands. And then I remember this really awful hotel I stayed in that was so trendy, it was stupid. The lobby looked like a construction site. There's snap tie holes showing where they're taking the forms off. I'm going, oh, that's not cool. But the worst thing was the breakfast. They served it in pint ice cream containers. And then they just dumped a slimy poached egg on the top.
That's horrible.
It was horrible.
That's horrible.
It was trying to be really trendy. And I go, really? Young people are really going to want to eat breakfast out of ice cream containers? I don't know about that.
Oh, Temple, I think you have a career as a travelogue reporter, because I would
And I
enjoy.
said, we are never staying here ever again.
Temple. Oh, I love it.
Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.